Being polite is very important in Italian culture, which is why knowing how to say please and thank you should be among the first things that you learn. These magic little words will make a huge difference in your relationship with speakers of Italian and how you experience the country as you travel around. However, there is no one single translation for the word please in Italian. As a beginner, you are probably familiar with the most commonly used translation, which is per favore. However, this is not the only way to say please in Italian, and the phrases you may need to use depend a lot on the tone of the conversation, the nature of the relationship between the speakers, context, urgency, and even regionality. Saying please in Italian is often more than just sticking per favore onto the end of your request, which is why in this video we'll learn about how you can say please in Italian in 9 different ways appropriate to various situations that you'll find yourself in. And this will include translations, explanations, and important cultural notes. Pronti? Are you ready? Cominciamo. Let's get started. Hi, my name is Michelle. I'm the Intrepid Guide, your guide to language learning for travel using my 80-20 method. Now, if you're new to my channel, make sure you hit the subscribe button and click on the bell notification so you get an alert when I post more videos like this one. So let's take a look at how to say please in Italian in 9 different ways, starting with
per favore.
Now, this is probably the most common way of saying please in Italian, and it is definitely the first one that most beginners are taught. Its meaning is quite straightforward, and it can be literally translated to as a favor or for favor. Now, it was originally used to describe something done as a favor to someone. For example,
non sono tenuto a farlo, ma lo farò ugualmente per favore.
Meaning, I don't have to do it, but I'll do it anyway as a favor. Now, over the years, this term became a common politeness formula that is used when asking for something. For example,
hai da accendere per favore?
Do you have a lighter, please? Or for instance, at a dinner table, you can say,
mi puoi passare il sale per favore?
Meaning, can you pass me the salt, please? Interestingly enough, in mail etiquette, the expression per favore used to be stamped or handwritten on letters or parcels delivered personally by an assistant or middleman to the recipient, without the use of any sort of postal service. Generally, per favore is indeed the most suitable expression to learn as a beginner in Italian. It is versatile and has no explicit social connotations or references to rank or hierarchy. Now, it can be used by parents talking to their children and children talking to their parents, superiors talking to the subordinates, and vice versa. It can be used in an informal context, such as a conversation with a friend, or in more formal settings, such as in a business meeting or in a job interview. However, it is rarely, if ever, used in formal written documents. It is also important to remember that not every English please will be translated with an Italian equivalent. An altogether different phrase could be more appropriate and used instead. For example, translating yes please as sì per favore is not technically a mistake, but people don't say it this way. Instead, they'll say sì, grazie, which literally means yes, thank you, which is more common and more used in Italian. The second one is
per piacere.
Now, per piacere is a common synonym of per favore and are both often perceived as interchangeable. Literally translated as for favor or for courtesy or for pleasure, per piacere is also acceptable in the majority of situations. However, there is one very subtle difference between the two phrases. With per favore, the person asking for something is reminding you to do it as a favor to them, while with per piacere, their listener is asked to do something or provide something to their advantage. Now, it is more similar to the archaic and very polite English expression of if you please or as you please, something from like Jane Austen you can imagine. The expression per piacere also implies the benefit of the receiver, or that they will be pleased by receiving something. Now, the noun piacere means pleasure in Italian as well, and it is also a verb. The difference between per favore and per piacere is extremely subtle and rarely conscious or intentional, so it can be safe to use whichever expression you prefer. Now, here are a couple of examples.
Per piacere, non fate troppo rumore.
Meaning, please, don't make too much noise.
Per piacere, puoi venirmi a prendere alla stazione dei treni?
Could you please pick me up at the train station? The third one is
Per cortesia.
Now, compared to the previous two expressions, percortesia is a more formal and a slightly more old-fashioned way of saying please in Italian. So if you want your request to sound slightly more formal or more respectful, you can replace per favore with percortesia. However, the difference is not too striking, so it's more subtle. Now, Italians prefer to use this expression when actually asking someone for a courtesy. For example,
Mi fa un caffè per cortesia?
Meaning, may I have a coffee please? A customer at a bar or a coffee shop can ask for their drink with a per favore or a per piacere as well, without any significant difference. But by choosing percortesia, one can show a deeper sense of respect towards the barman or barista and their appreciation for their work. When asked for something with a percortesia, the listener might feel more motivated to give you what you asked for or provide you with a better service, because this expression implies a greater thankfulness towards the person giving you what you are asking for. So here is another example.
Per cortesia, potrebbe portarmi il conto?
Could you bring me the bill, please? Number 4 is
Cortesemente.
Cortezamente can be translated as courteously or kindly. However, in some contexts, translating it as please is also suitable. Cortezamente is used in written communication or in spoken situations that are quite formal. And for extra emphasis, it can be combined with phrases like si prega or la prego. Interestingly, adding cortezamente makes a sentence that would otherwise sound rather rude in English sound very polite in Italian. For example,
Cortesemente, mi servirebbe il fascicolo del signor Rossi.
Literally, this means courteously, I need Mr. Rossi's file. Now, saying I need Mr. Rossi's file, even without please added to it, is not always an appropriate way to ask for something, and a more suitable option would be, could I have Mr. Rossi's file, please? However, in Italian, it is perfectly acceptable and a polite and formal request to say it this way. Now, cortesamente can, of course, also be used in polite interrogative sentences, as in the following example.
Potrebbe cortesemente passarmi il sale?
Meaning, could you please pass me the salt? Earlier we saw before that per favore was used in the same context. Now this request, however, is much more formal, and you can imagine that while in the previous example we were at a table with a relative or a friend, in this case we are having a business lunch, or we are eating with someone that we respect deeply or we don't know very well, or maybe we even fear them. Using cortesamente brings the conversation to a very formal, written or even spoken level. And on this note, we can safely say that it is mostly used in written communication rather than in the spoken environment, such as in public signs and on warning signs, such as
Cortesemente chiudere il cancello.
Meaning kindly close the gate. This is a very generic request to whoever is using the gate, say in a large apartment block, for example. However, it is very formal and very polite. Number 5 is
Gentilmente.
Gentilemente is a close synonym of cortesamente, just a bit less formal and more friendly, possibly used in family situations or with people we know or that we want to be extra kind with. It is rarely seen in the written form. Translated literally, it means kindly, courteously, or politely. It is often used in affirmative sentences expressing a need that we want to be fulfilled. For example,
La prego gentilmente di spegnere il microfono.
Meaning, I kindly ask you to turn your microphone off. In English, a similar effect is usually achieved by using a modal verb, such as, could you please turn your microphone off? An interrogative sentence with a similar meaning is possible in Italian as well. For example,
Potrebbe cortesemente spegnere il microfono?
Again, this means, can you please turn your microphone off? However, it conveys a slightly higher sense of urgency and denotes that in some way, some sort of nuisance was created by this person's microphone, which was still turned on, which needs to be addressed and solved immediately. Number 6 is
Ti prego, la prego, vi prego.
Now, prego is the first person singular conjugation of the verb pregare, which means to ask, to pray, or to beg. And by using one of these expressions, we are practically begging for something, so be careful how you use it. Now, ti prego is I beg you in the informal tense, la prego is I beg you in the formal tense, and vi prego is I beg you but to a plural audience, so more than one person. Each of these phrases express a deep need for something, as if there was something that our life depends on, or something that we strongly desire, and it can sound quite dramatic, so make sure not to overuse it. Now, quite often choosing this expression reflects our feeling that the person we are begging for something is not too keen on doing a favour like this for us. For instance, a teenager begging their parents for a night out, or someone begging for the mercy in a desperate situation, which means it is probably not the best phrase to use in a cafe when you're ordering a coffee or in an everyday situation. However, if you need what you're asking for really badly, or if you've asked for it multiple times or your chances of getting it are rather slim, this just might be the right phrase for you to use. Here's an example.
Ti prego, fammi usare la tua auto.
Now this sounds almost like I'm begging you, let me use your car, rather than a simple or less urgent, please let me use your car, which in Italian would be
Per favore, fammi usare la tua auto.
The request made with the use of per favore is definitely less urgent and less desperate. Now, judging by the choice of words alone, we can sometimes see the whole situation quite clearly. For example,
Mamma, ti prego, fammi andare al concerto.
Meaning, Mum, please, I'm begging you, let me go to the concert. This is probably a teenager who has been asking their mum to go to a concert for quite a while and has heard a lot of no's. However, they still really want to go because all of their friends are going too. Or in another situation, you might hear a parent ask of their child,
Marco, ti prego, finisci i compiti.
Meaning, Marco, I'm begging you, finish your homework. By this we can understand immediately that Marco has been putting off doing his homework for quite some time, and maybe he does it regularly as well, and his mum or dad are just completely ignored and exasperated by the whole situation. Now, in using this expression, the tone and the level of respect is signaled by the choice of the pronoun, using either ti, la, or vi. And as you probably already know, Italians differentiate these different direct object pronouns, while in English we always use you. So if you use ti, you are talking to someone that you know quite well, like a friend, a co-worker, or a family member. La indicates distance and respect, and it is chosen when addressing older people, teachers, superiors, strangers, and especially in formal or professional situations. And vi is chosen in an equivalent of a ti situation, say of informal, but we are using it in the plural this time. So in English, you is the second person plural as well. Using vi can also demonstrate a higher level of distance and politeness than la does. However, it is rarely seen nowadays, and it is mostly used in the southern regions of Italy, and it shows a more extreme level of respect. It used to be used to address members of the royal families, members of the church, ambassadors, consuls, but in the past century it has come to be associated with the fascist regime and Mussolini's dictatorship, as this is the main reason why it has been progressively abandoned by the average Italian speaker. Number 7 is
Si prega di, siete pregati di.
These expressions use the same verb pregare, to beg, as in the previous section, but in this context it's the impersonal form. It is very rarely used in speech, but it will mostly come across, and you'll see it in the written form and in a rather formal context. Si prega di is a rather ceremonious, official, and a polite way of requesting something. It is not directed at any specific person, but at the public in general. That is why it is most commonly used for various instructions and rules and prohibitions. You may see it written on billboards or notice boards, signs, or in user manuals in schools, universities, public offices, on public transportation, in industrial and commercial settings too. You may hear it only on special or very formal occasions on the TV or on the radio in formal speeches intended for a wide audience. The second version of this expression is siete pregati di. Now this is a little more direct, as it addresses a generic second plural person, slightly less formal and more straightforward, but is still fairly impersonal and official. A voiceover on a speaker at a store might warn you that it's closing time, and you might hear a message such as
Si prega la gentile clientela di avvicinarsi all'uscita.
which means we invite our kind customers to approach the exit. In Italian, this sounds extremely polite and well-mannered, while it is still asking you to quickly finish doing your shopping and to leave the place as soon as possible. On a train or on a bus, for instance, a sign might warn you that you are not allowed to smoke in a polite way, such as
Si prega di non fumare. Siete pregati di non fumare.
This could be translated to please do not smoke, rather than the usual no smoking, which is more direct and straight to the point, but could sound a little rude to the Italian ear. And as you remember, politeness is extremely important in the Italian culture, even when imposing strict rules. Number 8 is
prego,
prego. Literally means I pray or I beg, and it may seem an unusual way to say please in Italian. The more common use of prego is in the reply to grazie, thank you, as an equivalent to the English you are welcome. However, in certain contexts, it is also the equivalent of the English please. Unlike the examples that we've previously seen, prego is not used to ask questions or make requests. It becomes the Italian equivalent of please when the speaker is making an invitation or giving someone permission to do or to take something. For example, when a friend is inviting us to their place, we may hear something like
prego entrate,
meaning please come in. Later on, when gathering in the dining room, the host might invite us to sit down at a specific spot in a polite way, and you might hear
prego, si sieda qui,
meaning please sit down here. On the phone or at the reception talking to a secretary or a nurse, you might be addressed with a
prego, mi dica.
Here we are being invited to explain what we need, but we can literally translate this to please, tell me. Once again, it is a rather formal way of saying please in Italian, but it is still very effective and polite and commonly used. Number 9 is
Per carità,
Now, calling this a way of saying please in Italian is a bit of a long stretch, but it is still worth mentioning. Now, per carità literally means by charity, and it is mostly used as an exclamation. The person using it is most likely overwhelmed, annoyed, or wants to emphasize what is going on. Now, this expression usually corresponds to the English "for goodness sake," but occasionally you can hear it used in the very expressive, even dramatic please, as in
smettetela per carità,
meaning stop it, please, stop it, for goodness sake. Through this choice of words, you can clearly feel the exasperation of the speaker. Now, you can't truly learn how to say please in Italian without also learning how to say thank you. After all, if you ask someone to do you a favor and they do it, you need to be able to thank them for it. Now, as you've seen in the previous examples, there are many different ways of saying thank you as well. Now, there are probably just as many, if not more. But there is one key word at the heart of most of them, and this is grazie, thank you. Now, attenzione, be careful. Don't confuse the word grazie with grazia. So the IE ending and the IA ending, here is the difference. So the second one means grace. Grazia means grace, while grazie is the plural form of this noun, which has become the most common way of saying thank you in Italian. Similar to per favore, grazie is a versatile expression, and it can be used to thank anyone, anywhere, at any time. But if you want to be more expressive or add a certain flavor to your thank you, you can add many different words to grazie. Let's take a look at them now.
Grazie mille, mille grazie,
meaning thank you very much, or a million thanks, or thanks a million.
Grazie tante,
Thanks a lot, or many thanks.
Grazie di tutto,
Thanks for everything.
grazie di cuore,
Thanks from my heart.
grazie di nuovo,
Thanks again,
grazie infinite,
or infinite thanks. In a formal situation, you can say
la ringrazio tanto,
meaning thank you very much. And of course, if someone says grazie to you, don't forget to reply with prego, as in you're welcome, to be polite. So there we have it, how to say please in Italian in 9 different ways. Now, there are many ways of saying please in Italian. Some are more versatile, like per favore. Others are more formal, emotional, or even dramatic. If you are just starting out in learning Italian, sticking with this most common option is totally fine. However, if you want to be more fluent in Italian, communicate with native speakers in many topics and situations, and be able to understand and convey nuanced meanings, a simple per favore might not be enough. If you're serious about learning Italian, then make sure you check out my free guide, 7 Common Mistakes in Italian and How to Avoid Them. Just click on the link in the description below and I'll send you your free guide. And if you want to learn Italian with my 80-20 method, just click on the link in the description below to check out my online language courses. In the meantime, hit that like button, subscribe to my channel and turn on notifications so you get alert when I post more videos like this one. Until next time, bye!